What does it take to renovate a 1950s house and its garden? 4 things: time, sweat labor, patience, and passion. Colleen Jameson and Bruce Baldwin tackled indoors and out, one section at a time.
It took years, really, to move around the garden. Absolutely years. And there's lots of learning along the way and lots of patience. And I can remember working my tail off and looking out at these little plants. I mean, I had in my mind this beautiful, lush garden was going to be there, but there are these little plants that took years to grow, and just having to learn that that is how it is. The front is designed for curb appeal. I call them bulletproof plants that are structurally pleasing all year long in general. And in the back is where I'm much more likely to play with plants that are perhaps more appealing to nature, the birds may love, but they don't look gorgeous all year long.
Since Colleen bought the house in the 90s, she's adapted as old trees died.
We had an arborist come out and look at our very old, gorgeous trees, and he said they are going to go. And so we started putting nurse trees underneath it. We feel that living is just an extension indoors to outdoors.
So, Bruce expanded the front porch for a living room aligned with the one inside.
I tried to emphasize the garden, so the landing right by the door is a flower. So that was like the main inspiration of it. I wanted to have the flower as part of the gardens, and actually stained it red, the flower part, and the rest of it was brown. So the rest of the deck is a golden brown color.
Colleen enriched the garden steps, too, with layers of structural and flowering plants. Birds and bees grab a drink at the disappearing fountain, fed by air conditioner condensate in summer. Its dry creek bed diffuses and directs rainwater.
It's about the sound of when you're sitting on the porch, of hearing just that little, nuance of water moving. I think movement is a big part of a really successful garden.
She likes water features.
Yeah. That's true.
The opposite side of the indoor living room opens to a relaxation cove devised during house renovation. Colleen picked up the deep red of a reliable Don Juan climbing rose with accents and cushions.
It's certainly a moment before you go into the garden, and that's really what it is. We have a chair there. We could sit and read and look at the waterfall, but it's more a moment, a transitional moment from the inside to the outside.
And that's really the theme of Colleen's Gardens, is moments. And when you travel around the garden, it's like you discover a moment here, a moment there.
It's easy to travel around on the low-care pea gravel paths, but they've got a purpose too. Their grading and French drains diffuse and guide rainfall away from the house. A semi-permeable driveway assists runoff control. Front yard appeal travels to the utilitarian path alongside the house. Even in the narrow space, Colleen layered dimension and texture. Rolling out the weekly trash carts was never so fun.
It's just this transitional moment from going to the side into the back. Sometimes I put colorful little things around the winter months when it might not be as much natural color.
Then I built her a little garden house on the side over there, and it was for her birthday. And it was built out of all recycled material. The old shutters from the house were cabinet doors, and the old French doors became the doors to it, and then found other doors for the ends of it.
Another occasion, he gifted her with a handmade rose arbor entry into the backyard. Fall-blooming Queen's Wreath and purple hyacinth bean joined the rose to drape the backyard's entrance. She screened the fence with an evergreen xylosma, grasses, seasonal annuals, and square-foot gardens built by Bruce. Along the back, a cascading weeping willow takes center stage. Even in a light breeze, its gentle ripples enrich Colleen's goal for eye-catching movement among static plants and objects.
It's a wonderful block, too, tall block from the neighbors.
When her children were small, photinias hedged the back fence.
And then I lost a photinia. Straight back. I didn't want to put another photinia in, and I wanted to start becoming, just a little more diversified from this hedge. That's why that waterfall went there.
We were in Maine at the
Tuya.
Acadia National Park area, and there was a garden up there that was called the Tuya Gardens. It was named after the landscape architect. who created it. So one time we were there and I said, I'm going to build something like this for you. I said, but instead of to you, I said, I'm going to build it for you. And so it became the for you.
Polycarbonate panels roof it, and an old chandelier from the house lights it.
It's an evolution like everything. That was the place where the kids' swing set was, and then their forts were there, and then I had a little gazebo thing from Target there. But it's always been a place to sit and be in the garden.
That's where we got married.
Yes.
Was right in the for you.
Gracefully curving paths of pea gravel wind around beds of seasonally blooming pollinator perennials dotted with complementary accents.
And if you notice in the garden, there's sections of color, different colors all around, which were part of that whole theme.
Part of it is really helped me think about my garden in a way that was free but still cohesive and still made sense. Very strong guiding principles for me.
And this area outside
Yeah.
the door originally was just a sidewalk that went to the garage. I said, this is really a beautiful part of the garden. And so that's when we built that deck, which is, we kind of call it the outdoor dining room. We really like sitting out there and enjoying you can enjoy all of it from the outdoor dining table. You can see the fountain and you can see the birds and everything.
Bruce built the fence from treated pine.
Rather than just a fence, it's a wall to display art, basically. And so we built little boxes on the sides where she put plants in. And
we have
she
space
does,
in between the boards because we don't want it to be like a solid wall between our neighbors. It's just a way of creating some closure and
certain
space.
sections, I built them at a diagonal slant too.
The gate with trawl handle is generation 2 of an idea inspired by their old front door.
The old front door was old and when it got outside and no protection, it rotted away eventually. So I made a new door.
But I think it's part of the philosophy of reusing, of keeping things that are part of a house that has some age, and we wanted to always be thinking about repurposing.
Colleen extended their garden view to the median that divides their street.
It is terrible soil, it is no irrigation, it is browsed by deer. Talk about native and tough, and if you don't make it, you're out. And all of a sudden I'm seeing people enjoying it and, taking part in making it a community thing. It's sort of funny because we're more together even though there's this sort of barrier there, but it brings people together in a good way.
Colleen and Bruce encourage the neighborly spirit through a home and garden that everyone strolling by considers a big warm hug.
That's the type of neighborhood we live in where, people are walking all the time.
And I think it's part of living close to each other. We have to find ways to do it with beauty.